We stopped somewhere last time we met. Can anybody remind us where we stopped? Where did we stop? Tell me where we stopped.
Hypothesis.
Okay, we're looking. I said I was going to discuss hypothesis with you today, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Are we all on the same page? Okay, so we attempted a definition of hypothesis in our last contact, and we said that hypothesis is authentative, unproven statements is a tentative statement, is an unproven statement about a phenomenon, about a relationship under study, and it is done with the intention that such a statement will be subjected to a test and conclusions made on the basis of a prescribed decision rule. So when we carry out research, we state hypotheses, and these hypotheses help us in so many ways. We already know that the hypothesis will guide us in data collection because the hypothesis will specify the variables of interest. Number two, we also know that the hypothesis will guide us in choosing estimation method. The hypothesis will guide us in drawing conclusion because the result of the hypothesis actually becomes the base on which conclusions will be drawn. So there are so many things that hypothesis will help us accomplish, which I have listed. Then there are two things majorly we should look at in terms of hypothesis. One, the issue of null and alternate hypothesis, and then the issue of single-tailed hypothesis and two-tailed hypothesis. Are we together?
Yes, sir.
Are we together? So in stating hypothesis, we can state in null form. We can also state in alternate word form. So when you state the null means nothing. Null means negative. You know, it's fine to start from nothing so as to end with something. For example, if I am studying about the rate of divorce in, let's say, Nigeria, then I begin, my tentative statement can be wives nagging rates does not cause divorce in Nigeria. That's a null hypothesis because I stated it in a does not form. Then if I want to state the alternate, can anybody help me state the alternate? The alternate of the null, wives nagging rates does not cause divorce in Nigeria.
Why nagging rates cause divorce in Nigeria?
So when you just remove the not, when you remove the not, it becomes the what? The alternate. Now, there's something you should also know about the relationship between research questions, research hypotheses, and research objectives. If you have 5 research questions, if you have 5 research objectives, how many research questions will you have? If you have 5 research objectives, that's specific objectives, how many research questions will you have?
10.
5, of course.
Who said 10?
5.
Okay. Actually, why would you multiply 5 by 2 now?
Because you either have alternative, you can have alternative.
No, that's for, we're talking about research questions now. And the questions will be as many as the research objective. So if you have 5 questions, you will have 5 objectives. So each objective will be expressed in the form of a word, a question. And also you'll be expected to have 5 hypotheses. You know the reason? when an objective is, when the answer that is arising from an objective is answered, that's when the question is answered, and then the hypothesis tested and confirmed, it is believed that the objective has been what? Achieved. So each objective should be expressed in the form of a question and will also be expressed in the form of a what? A hypothesis. So that the hypothesis, when tested and confirmed, and then the question, when answered, becomes the solution to the objective. That becomes that the objective has been accomplished. You know, so that is that. So that looks at the relationship between research questions, research hypothesis, and research what? Objective. So, and like we've all agreed, you can state in null and alternate what form. And then the researcher's main focus is to reject null. Every researcher desires to reject what? Null in several normal circumstances. The researcher's objective is to reject the null what? Hypothesis, because nobody wants to go home with nothing. Null means null. Null means nothing. So nobody likes to take home nothing. So he wants to reject null. Is that okay? Now, I raised the issue of single-tail hypothesis and two-tail hypothesis. Now, in a single-tail hypothesis, at the barest, we try to address. Okay, let me put it this way: when we are testing hypothesis, we test two major things. We look at direction and magnitude. We look at what?
Direction and
Direction
and
magnitude.
Magnitude. Direction and magnitude. Direction and magnitude. Now, when we talk of direction, what are we looking at? You know, when you are studying relationships, the relationship may be positive or what? Negative.
negative.
Right? In terms of direction, relationship may be positive or negative. In other words, if these variables don't share positive relationship, they would share what? Negative relationship. If my relationship with, say, Benjamin is not positive, it will be what? Negative.
Negative.
That means is either we get along fine or we don't get along fine. Is that okay?
Yes.
Now, when we are testing direction in terms of the relationship between, let's say, X and Y, maybe X standing for inflation and Y standing for economic growth, or maybe X standing for profitability and Y standing for maybe customer satisfaction. You know, we're asking ourselves, to what degree does customer satisfaction lead to profitability of a firm? So when we are testing that, we are actually, in terms of direction, we are looking at two things. It is either, please, let's control the background noise. It is either profitability is a positive function of customer satisfaction, or profitability is a negative function of what? Customer satisfaction. So that means in terms of direction, we are testing for either positive or negative. Don't forget that. In terms of direction, we are testing either positive or what? Negative.
Negative.
In terms of magnitude, we are testing for significance. We are testing for what?
Significance.
In magnitude, we are testing for what? Significance. What are we actually looking at? We're asking ourselves, the relationship may be positive or not negative, but is it significant? Now, what's a significant relationship? Is a significant relationship is such that is meaningful enough to be measured. Meaningful enough to be what? Measured. There are some unmeaningful relationships. Do you agree with me? Some relationship may be unmeaningful, though there's a direction, you know, but it is not big enough. It doesn't make sense enough to be what? Measured. So when we, apart from looking at the direction of the relationship, we are asking ourselves another very important question, which is this relationship big enough to be measured? Is it meaningful enough to be measured? Is it meaningful enough to be what? Measured. So that's what we are looking at when we talk about what? Magnitude.
Magnitude.
So in direction, we're looking at is it negative or positive? In magnitude, we're looking at is it meaningful enough, statistically meaningful enough to be measured, or statistically unmeaningful to be what? Measured. I don't know whether we are together. So when we state hypothesis, this thing comes to our mind. Now, that takes me to the main thing. I said all those things to say this. When we state only magnitude or direction in our relationship, in our hypothesis, that means we are testing for either magnitude or what? Direction. When we are testing that, we have what we call a single-tailed hypothesis or a one-tailed hypothesis. It's called what? One-tailed, one-tailed. Tailed is T-A-I-L-E-D, like the tail of a dog. One-tailed hypothesis. One-tailed what?
Hypothesis.
What's a one-tailed hypothesis? When you test either magnitude or what?
Or direction.
When your interest is either magnitude or what? Direction.
Or direction.
Is a one-tailed hypothesis. Now, let me give you an example of a one-tailed hypothesis. When I say, write it. There is no positive relationship. There's no positive relationship between
Between what?
Between the outbreak of coronavirus and the closing of schools. Have you noted that?
Yes. Can you explain in details?
Now, when I say there is no positive relationship between the outbreak of coronavirus and the closure of what? Schools. Just take that as simplistic as it may seem. Now, but what I want you to understand is that watch the word positive. Watch the word positive. That is the significant thing there. When I say positive, it suggests that I am testing what? Direction.
Direction.
And it is also one-tailed. Are you following that? Because I am testing only one out of the two. The two should have been what? Should have been direction and magnitude. But because I'm restricting myself to positive, you know that it is what?
One-tailed.
One-tailed. And then the emphasis is on what? The emphasis is on what?
Relationship.
Direction. The emphasis is on direction. The emphasis is on what? Direction.
Direction. Okay.
Fine. Now, let me state another hypothesis so that you will tell me whether it is one-tailed or two-tailed. If I say there is no significant relationship between Naira devaluation and increase in exportation, there is no significant relationship between Naira devaluation and increase in export volume. Is that one-tailed or two-tailed?
Two-tailed.
It's
a two-tailed.
One-tailed, sir.
It's a two-tailed.
Okay.
One-tailed.
There is no significant relationship between
Naira devaluation
and export volume. One-tailed or two-tailed?
Two-tailed.
It is two-tailed.
One-tailed.
Okay. Now, who said one-tailed?
Yeah,
one-tailed. Henry.
Okay. Henry said it's one-tailed. Henry, why did you
Yes,
say
sir.
one tell? Why did you say one tell?
Like one tell because we are looking at one of the two variables, which is significant. You said there's no significant relationship. So we didn't talk about direction, whether it is positive or negative. So if there's no significant relationship, sir. So it's one tail.
You didn't answer my question very well. I was expecting you to say something better than that. Now, Haja, you said it's two-tailed. Why?
I've changed my mind.
So your first answer was inconclusive.
Yes, sir.
Hello, sir.
Okay. Why did you say it's one tail?
Because we are talking about, we are looking at the magnitude now.
Okay. That's what Henry should have said. It's one tail, but unlike the first example, this one is focused on what? Magnitude. Please, David Ugu, I have muted you before. If you would stay unmuted, kindly control the noise level. All right. It's one tail actually, but this time around the focus is not on direction, rather the focus is on what? On magnitude. So whether the focus is on direction or the focus is on magnitude, it is what? It is one tail if you're looking at only one of them. But listen to this one. There is no positive and significant relationship between naira devaluation and export volume. What's that?
Two-tailed.
It's two-tailed hypothesis.
Yes.
Why?
You're
Because
looking
we're
at the
looking at what?
magnitude and both the direction.
For positive direction, for significant magnitude. So a combination of the significance and the magnitude tells us that it is what? It is two-tailed. Is that okay? Tells us that it is what? Two-tailed hypothesis. Now, question, must every hypothesis be two-tailed?
No.
No. That answer was too quick. Even the way it came will make someone begin to doubt whether it is correct. Must every hypothesis be two-tailed? If not, why?
It must not be two-tailed, but sometimes you will be focusing on direction alone. And sometimes you will be focusing on both direction and magnitude.
It has to be two-tailed.
Ajia has spoken. Is another person's turn to, is it speak or spark? Okay. Okay. I want another input. She said it mustn't be two-tailed. So must every hypothesis be two-tailed?
No,
sir.
Okay, go on.
I'm listening. So who is on the microphone?
Okay, sir.
Sorry? Who is on the? Okay, Henry, go ahead.
Okay, yes, sir. Every hypothesis that is subject to further research should have both magnitude and direction. From researches that I have seen that are published, have the significant effect and then the positive and minus significant effect. So that's standard.
Okay. Now we have
both
two
magnitude and direction.
Okay, we have two shades of opinion. But I now like to ask a question. Are you all ears? Let me ask a question. Now, if every hypothesis has to be has to be for both magnitude and direction, my question is, where does the issue of theoretical consideration or theoretical direction comes in? You know, let me make it easier for you. Some relationships are theoretically defined in terms of direction. For example, if you're studying the relationship between price and demand, you already know what the direction will be. True or false?
True.
Do you agree with me? Do you agree with what I just said?
Yeah.
We already know from theoretical consideration, or from theoretical leaning or theoretical underpinning, we already know what the relationship should be in terms of what the theory says. We know that theory has already defined that the higher the price, the lower the quantity was demanded, which means there's already an established negative relationship between price and demand.
Yeah.
If theory has established that, is it still wise enough to start going back to test what theory has already established? Is your own responsibility not to test magnitude instead of testing both direction and magnitude? Because direction has already been defined by what? Theory. Do you get my thoughts?
Yeah.
That's one. Then where would be the place of what we call a priori expectation? Before a researcher sets out to measure the relationship between a work and another work, he has what we call a priori what? Expectation. Your a priori expectation is where you expect the direction to go and where you even expect the significance to go. Or most times we don't even bother about significance in terms of our priori expectation. We bother about direction. For example, if I write, let me see if I can put this thing up in the chat room. Just give me a minute. Just give me a minute. Let me get it from somewhere and paste it there, because it's something that has to do with an equation. Okay, let me write it. Just a moment. Okay, have you seen the equation I put on the chat room? Please look at the chat room, everybody. Have you seen the equation in the chat room?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now I'd like to say something about that equation. See, we said, I tried to write it normally, but the Zoom platform wouldn't take the equation the way it's written. So it reconfigured it. So, but it's still, I can still do something with it the way it is. Okay, let me see what I can improve on it. Now that thing should have been y b subscript 0. Should have been b subscript 0. While the other one should have been b1, that's b beta subscript 1, x subscript 1. That's what it should have been if properly
Y
written.
equals B beta subscript 0.
Yeah.
Plus
Then plus
beta
beta
subscript 1.
subscript 1, x subscript 1.
Okay.
Please write it down.
Okay.
Hello.
X.
That it should have been y equal to beta subscript 0. That's why I wrote it in the equation editor. Then b beta plus beta subscript 1, x subscript
1.
1. Somebody said I can share my screen. Okay, let me see. I can.
Are you using video?
Yes, I am, but I'm not setting
Are we,
it very clear.
and we are using audio.
Okay. Let me see. I can share the screen. Please. How do I share the screen?
Hello, sir.
I think you have to have
Yes.
everybody on video.
Yeah. Hello,
Are
sir.
you?
Can you hear me?
Are you?
I can hear you, yeah.
All right. So on the menu at the bottom where you can see your mic, your video,
Yeah.
invite participants, there's a button that's shown share screen.
Okay, share
If you
screen.
click that, you now give you the option of what you want to share on your system.
Okay, that's right. Okay. I'm looking for it. Wow, that's interesting. Thank you.
Have you seen it, sir?
I'm trying to get a very file.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. I've seen this. This is beautiful. Okay. Oh, fine. All right. Can you see the screen now?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
You can see the screen
Yes, sir.
Yes.
where it's properly written, right?
Yes. Yes.
Beautiful. So if I have this screen, if I have this equation, which is y beta 0 plus beta 1 xy, you see it properly written now.
Yes.
Fine. Now in this equation, I can have an a priori expectation. My a priori expectation is that, let me write something, where beta 1, okay, where, okay, beta subscript 1 beta subscript 1 will be less than, will be less than 0. Okay. Fine. Now, if I write this, can you still see the screen, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Where beta 1 is less than or equal to 0. Now, what it means is that I don't need to test direction. When I say beta 1 will be less than or equal to 0, what it implies is that I'm expecting this coefficient to be, when a figure is less than or equal to 0. Oh, sorry about that. I shouldn't have said less than or equal to 0. I should have said just less than 0. When it is less than 0, it means it's negative. Do you agree with me?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
all figures that are less than 0 will be what? Negative.
Negative.
We get that? All figures that are less than 0 will be what? Negative.
Negative.
Then if I write something like where beta 1, okay, another scenario is where I write, let me just copy it and paste. Another scenario is where I write beta 1 will be greater than, beta 1 will be greater than or equal to what? Greater than or equal to 0. Greater than or equal to what? 0. If I write the second one, what does the second one suggest? The second one suggests it will be what?
Positive.
Thank you, Ajia. That means all figures that are greater than or equal to 0 are what? Positive figures.
Positive figures.
I know you see this kind of thing in research work sometimes, do you?
Yeah.
The author writes, instead of telling you expressly that he expects okay, now what this means is that y and x are the variables under study. Y is dependent on what? X. Y is the dependent variable, while X is the what? Independent what? Variable. What we are saying here in the first instance is that's in scenario 1. It means that Y will be a negative function. Y is a negative function of what? X. Y will be what? A negative function of what? X. Which means that as X increases, Y reduces. That's what scenario 1 means. Is that okay?
Yeah.
So you have already established your a priori expectation. You've already established your theoretical expectation. That means you expect that when you test, you will only test significance because direction is already what? Established. That's 1. Then scenario 2. In scenario 2, we are looking at where B1 is greater than or equal to what? 0. What it means is that Y
It's a
is
positive function
a
of
positive or
function of X.
constant function of what? X. Now, if it is constant, when it is equal to 0, it means as Y increases, as X increases, Y remains what? Unchanged.
Constant.
Constant. I get the point now. That means X does not produce a change in what? Y. Every change in X will produce a 0 change in what? Y. That's when it is equal to 0. Then when it is greater than 0, it means it's a positive function. It means as X increases, Y will also what? Increase. Now in the first one, we are looking at maybe like a relationship between price and demand. That demand is a negative function of what? Price. Y is demand, X is what? Price. That demand is a negative function of what? Price. That means another way of stating the law of demand, I hope you know. Instead of you to begin to sing the higher the price, the lower the quantity demanded as somebody in secondary school, you will just say the law of demand states that demand is what? A negative function of what? Price. That's another way of stating it. Instead of saying the higher the price, the higher the quantity supplied, you can say supply is a positive function of what? Price.
You
That's
just
another
look
way
for
of
the easiest one and say.
eh?
You said the easiest one now.
Ajia, cheap things are not good and good things are not cheap. Ajia, beware of cheap things.
When you are under exam tension, you look for the cheap one to just put them.
Just to fill the paper, right?
Yes, sir.
I have an uncle that used to say that when you add milk to tea, it's just to change the color. Okay. So you get what I'm talking about. So y is a positive or constant function of x, where you have that your a priori expectation is where b1 is greater than or equal to what? 0. So this is the way we state what we call a priori expectation. What did I call it?
A priori expectation.
A priori expectation. How many of you have had that before?
First time I'm hearing it though.
Yeah.
I hope you are seeing it. A priori expectation. Now, your a priori expectation is the researcher's expectation even before he carries out the word research. The researcher has to stand for something. He has to stand for a certain position. He takes a certain position before he begins to carry out the word research. So his a priori expectation refers to the position he has taken prior to the research. You know, expect this thing to go like this. So when he now does the work, he gets a finding, and then he begins to compare his finding with his what? A priori expectation. The question now is my a priori expectation, is my finding consistent with my a priori expectation, or my finding is it counter or opposite my a priori what? Expectation. For example, Hajia, as you expect that when a girl is 15 years, she should be able to help the mother in the kitchen. Am I correct?
Yes, ma'am.
That's an a priori expectation. But does that mean that every 15-year-old girl will be useful to the mother in the kitchen?
Even 20 myself, sometimes they are not useful.
They'll be busy with their internet, WhatsApping,
Yes.
YouTubing, and Facebooking.
Yeah.
You know. So, but that means if you now begin to assess the performance of this girl in line with your a priori expectation, it is either in consistency with your a priori expectation or it defeats your a priori what? Expectation. For example, in Nigeria, we expect that because Nigeria is oil rich and we make a whole lot of money from the exportation of crude oil, that the country should be rich. The country should be developed. The citizens should live well. That's our a priori expectation.
Yeah.
But whether or not that is true is left for Hajia to answer. Okay, so you get what I mean by a priori expectation. That means even before you set out to do the work, there's something you have in your mind. There is an expectation. That expectation ab initio, expectation before you start, is it's more like looking at the ideal. You know, there is something like what ought to be. What ought to be.
Scenario and ideal scenario.
Beautiful. You know, your a priori expectation is what ought to be.
Yeah, which is ideal.
Yes, while your finding is what is. What ought to be versus what is. So when you now have your results, you now do what? You compare what ought to be with what is. So that you'll be able to say whether what is in agreement with what ought to be, or what ought to be disagrees with what is. That is their priori expectation. So most times we use a priori expectation to define direction. This is our expectation in terms of direction. And then when we carry out the test, we'll now be able to say whether the a priori expectation agrees with what? Agrees with the actual, or it disagrees with the what? Actual. When, let me say something, note this. When the a priori
The line is breaking.
Okay, it's only mine.
do I still have your attention?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes.
We have a result that is what? Counterintuitive. That the result
Sir,
is,
can you come again?
When the a priori expectation is, that's where we stop.
can you see what is on the screen?
Yes.
Can you come again, sir? Where
What
you
is
said
this? Sorry,
We lost
what
you.
do you have on the screen?
counterintuitive.
Now, a result can be what? Counterintuitive. It can be what?
Counterintuitive.
When is it counterintuitive? Now, there's an intuitive result. There's an expectation. There's what you expect to have. Natural. What is natural? Another. I'm checking the synonyms of intuitive: natural, native, untaught, instinctual, inbuilt, innate, spontaneous, instinctive. That means naturally it should be so. This is the way it should be. But then when the result runs contrary to what should be, the result is considered what? Counterintuitive. So when your result defeats your a priori expectation, it may be counter what? Intuitive. For example, we know that if you run a test, you carry out maybe a regression analysis, and you have a coefficient of price against demand that is negative, that is positive rather. When the coefficient of price against demand is positive, it's counterintuitive, is it not?
Yeah.
It's counterintuitive, isn't it?
Intuitive. Yes.
Why is it counterintuitive?
Maybe it's contrary to what you expected. When the result is
I said if you run price against demand in your analysis, and then you have a positive coefficient, it is counterintuitive. Why?
Because normally you'd expect it to be a negative relationship.
Because normally the relationship between price and demand should be what? Negative. If it is inversely related. So if it becomes positive, that means it's what? Counterintuitive. Now,
so can we say this semester is counterintuitive to what we were expecting? Because we thought the first semester we'll be getting something better in the second semester, in this semester. And what we are seeing now is not what we are expecting. We expected.
Haja, I forgive you.
Amen.
Haja, I forgive you without you asking for forgiveness. You know, when people go to church or go to the mosque, the person in charge will always scold those who came early for the lateness of those who came late, because those who came late are still in the houses. They will not hear the scolding.
Yes.
They are even the ones that will be spoken to about those who did not come to church or come to the mosque. He's saying, you're not coming, why the real culprit are at home? So the one you are addressing is not the real culprit. You're actually bombing the wrong joint.
Maybe you help us deliver now.
Ajia, you're bombing the wrong joint.
As our a priori expectations, you can help us deliver, sir.
It's counterintuitive.
I think it will be better. It will get better. It will get better.
The semester is finishing.
You know, we're not charging any date. So, you know, this is an open and distant learning program.
So we'll be doing the exam.
No adjustment in date. Please be reading be preparing. Be preparing for everything.
Our textbook enter now.
That would be counterintuitive. That would defeat our priority expectation. Because their priority expectation is that Hajia should be a role model.
Sir, even without seeing my last term exam, I'm not even interested again. Because I want something that will encourage me, and I'm not encouraged now that I've not seen what I did last semester.
You will see it shortly.
So, at least when I sit down, I'll be happy to do this. This I'm just doing it.
Ajia, can you trust me?
Yes, sir. But those CDL waiting, where they are addressing us, me, I don't like it. Instead of them to be apologizing to us, they'll be telling us we are doing online. We knew you are doing online now.
Ajia, calm down now. Your blood is hot. Ajia, calm down.
Okay, sir.
Are you calm?
Yes, sir.
Calm down. It will be fine. We'll do our best. We'll do our best. We'll make. I promise you, we'll get better.
Thank you, sir.
Just take it easy, and then be doing your own thing. Be reading too. You know. As for me, I don't think I have challenges with my courses. I will make sure that.
Even last semester, you are the only one that encouraged us to.
Ajia, I'm blushing though. If you see me, I'm blushing.
No, yeah, but I'm saying the truth.
Excuse me, I don't know if I'm in the right class.
I am definitely going to ask that same question because I'm lost.
I can hear last semester, but this is my first semester, so I don't understand.
Okay. Are you your MBA first semester, right?
Yes.
Okay, Hajia did pre-MBA.
Pre-MBA.
And then this class is for a combination of pre-MBA students and MBA students. MBA first semester. Because you're doing research, and then research, that's basic research and research methodology, they overlap in a certain way. So the rest assured that you're in the right place.
Oh, okay. Sorry, sir. My name is Caleb. You just mentioned that this class is for Hajia that did pre-MBA last semester. Those that are doing MBA this semester. But I am doing pre-MBA this semester. So
you are in the right place.
Okay.
We have one course in common.
Basic research methods
and research methodology. You're doing that together.
Just the name that changed.
But now I'm scared, sir. My name is Benjamin. I'm scared because I'm hearing we are not changing dates. And I don't understand what the date is because this is actually this is actually the first class I'm taking, and I'm hearing we are not changing dates.
Okay, please, can you banish that statement and pretend as if it was not made in this class?
Okay, that is counterintuitive.
Just pretend as if you didn't hear it. Okay. Now, let me say something. I'm talking to you in my capacity as the person in charge of content and facilitation for the program.
Okay.
I'm not talking to you in my capacity as your research methodology teacher now. I'd like you to relax. Please, can we
mute? Yeah.
Let me mute.
Can we just mute and the speaker?
Don't worry, don't mute. I know who the culprit is. I'll mute the culprit. there's peace in the house.
Yeah.
So like I was saying, we appreciate the fact that this is an open and distant learning program, and we've made available to you the course materials. This is support. That's why you hear is support, 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 because you're supposed to do some of the works for yourself. While we also do this is not lecturing, this is called facilitation. Facilitation means provision of what? Support to your learning process. So that does not excuse the fact that there have been instances where facilitation was scheduled and it didn't hold. We are very sorry about that. But I also would want you to develop a certain degree of sense of independence. Study at your own pace. And then you also can, when I come to this class, I don't have any, you don't give me evidence in favor of your working on your own. Because when I come to this class, I ask any question. Nobody raises a question ahead of me and say, talk about this, meaning that you were reading and you got into something that you're not familiar with, and then you're bringing it up to the class by way of a question for us to discuss. You must not follow me toe to toe. You know, this is not supposed to be a secondary school class, or maybe, aside the fact that this is a PG program, you also know that you are distant learners, meaning that you can read ahead of the class and prepare ahead of the class. When we come to class, if you have any gray area you want us to address, we address them. And then that way, you are doing some things for yourself. Don't wait for you to be carried headlong, you know, head and shoulder. Be doing something for yourself. That's my admonition to all of us. But as for those noticeable lapses, we are working to ensure that they are put in order, and that you have the best of what you're supposed to have. At least I'm happy that those of you that were around in first semester, you are still attesting to the fact that a lot was done. It is not yet late. A lot can still be done, you know, to make sure you have the best learning experience. So if we satisfy you, tell others. If we dissatisfy you, tell us.
Dude, that's political.
Hey, stop it.
I don't know whether I heard what I said. If we satisfy you, tell others. If we dissatisfy you, you tell us.
But
Please,
sir, I want to ask a question.
Please go ahead.
Okay, based on the time frame when the class started, like we started in March, do you think it's possible for us to read ahead, because we are also working, and after the day work, like coming to read ahead of you? I know you might be disappointed at some point that probably asking us questions and we are not giving you the answer, or we are not challenging you the way you want, but you should understand that we go to work, and coming back sometimes we can just get so tired that would not even open the book for the day.
Well, I won't say I'm disappointed. I can't be disappointed, because we appreciate the fact that you work. For you to, if you were not working, you wouldn't have enrolled in an open and distant learning program, probably. Probably. You probably also would have chosen that as an option too, because of its own peculiar advantages. But then I am not disappointed, and I have no reason to be, because I know you may send you come. You send yourself. So all I'm doing is to encourage you to
thank you, sir, for encouraging us,
so that we work together. It is, you know, can a teacher teach an imaginary class?
No.
No teacher can teach an imaginary class. When you talk of a class, it's a combination of the teaching and the learning. So the effectiveness of a class or a learning environment comes from a combination of the learners and the teacher or the instructor, depending on the nomenclature. So obviously, if I get disappointed, they say an angry pastor will produce an angry congregation. an An angry facilitator will produce an angry class.
Yes, sir.
When it's an angry class, nobody learns, you know. So
Okay.
I'm not disappointed, and I can be.
Thank you
The
very
only
much.
thing we do is
Thank
to
you.
encourage all of
Sir,
you to move on.
sir, in the timetable, there's no continuous assessment there.
We will soon talk about it. We'll let
Okay.
you know. We'll let you know at the appropriate time. So
Okay,
it's already being planned. Just that you know we are on strike. I should not be teaching yourself because I'm on strike.
No, we are online now. We are
Really?
not.
But is the strike affecting us, the online class?
Well, it's not in a sense because the peculiarity of this program is such that it's not exposed to. Nobody can come here and begin to. ASU cannot come here to monitor.
Yeah.
And that's why we are here. And then also there are things I'm not supposed to start sharing with you here. But then just realize that we are doing our best to make sure that we make things work under the prevailing circumstances. So,
And see, coronavirus now is on strike.
Ajay, calm down. I have another. I have another course I'm taking with first semester MBA. That's corporate finance. Corporate finance. We have corporate finance. We've not started that. We'll soon start that. Maybe by this week.
Okay, you are the one taking us that one too.
Yes, I'm taking you corporate finance. And then for pre-MBA, I'm taking you business statistics as well. Which means we have some things to deal with you. So, but let's just continue. Okay, let me. You've been asking me questions. Let me ask my own. So tell me, how far has the class been? Have you been picking anything? Any questions? Ask your questions. Then make your comment. If there's no question, there should be a comment or an observation.
Okay.
Sir, mute that person. He's still disturbing us.
Let's say the person don't hide. Make I find out.
Will I say something?
Okay, cut him. Can we go ahead now?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Questions, comments, observations before we continue. This has been the most massively attended class. I've not had up to this number since we started. I mean, so you people are repenting. Questions, comments, observations.
Comment.
If there's no comment, if there's no question, at least you thank me for the one I've done thus far, then I'll continue.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Please, questions. That was on a lighter mood. Questions. Ask me your questions. Let's discuss your questions, observations, comments. Can we?
Observation.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Good evening, all. I'm Onya Chijoke by name. This is the first class I'm attending for pre-MBA. So prior to when Mr. Benjamin actually raised it, I was really lost because I had to get the material and started flipping and discovered that the topic that is actually being talked about is way into the book. So for us that are just joining for the pre-MBA, is there a way for a refresher or something that could make us flow? And secondly, when we are being tested, are we going to be tested based on from here moving forward, leaving the other one until we get to it? That's what I just want to say.
Can I ask a simple question?
Okay, please
who will you leave those ones for?
For Hajia. If
you are leaving them, who would you leave them for? Anyway, there will be nothing will be left, because to whom much is given, much will be taken, or from whom much is given, much will be taken. So that's the. But the only thing is that we will make efforts to see how we bring you up from the lost point.
Okay, so I have a suggestion.
Please go ahead.
All right, is it possible we have like a board? When you are teaching, you can put your camera on the board and we'll see the way you solve issues. It can go a long way to help us with formulas.
Somebody has helped us resolve that problem now, so we can share the screen. You're actually looking at the screen.
Now.
Yes, I'm seeing the screen.
So you are asking an answered question.
Okay, sorry, sir.
Please go ahead.
But I think you can use something like a touch pen, in the sense that you can be writing on instead of typing takes longer time.
I didn't get that. I didn't get that.
Okay, sir. I think he suggested you write rather than type, but I would not agree with that, because if you're writing, I think it will not be as clear as sharing a screen, and you might have difficulty actually seeing what you're writing. So I think I prefer the screen sharing part.
It's fine.
Okay, and another thing is, like me, during the first class, I wanted to join, but due to network, I was unable to join. The second class, I was also unable to join. So this third class is the only class I can say I have partially followed. So please, is there any way that we can, like some of us that did not partake in those classes, can know the areas that you touched during those classes, so that
we have not gone too far. I think the much we've done is introduction to research. We did the research process, right? Then talked about topics and all that. These are things you can read up. Where I am actually dwelling on now are the most technical areas. The other ones are things you can read up and
okay, sir.
And be at home with it. But just start reading. If you have any issues or any questions, put them down. When we come to the next class, you can raise them. We discuss them. So we are very open to addressing your concerns. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Fine, it's fine. Permit me to go ahead.
Permitted.
All right. So we have seen, when you state hypothesis, that you can concentrate on what? On magnitude, because the direction most times are defined by what we call theoretical underpinning. What we call what? Theoretical underpinning. Now, most relationships have theoretical underpinning. Like when you even do theoretical review, you know what is theoretical review, right? Like in literature analysis, you do theoretical review. You look at the theoretical underpinning of the study. That's the theory underlying the study you are looking at. And the theory has defined some things, and theory most times define direction. And so all you do is to test towards significance. Like I said earlier on in the class, let me just, for the purposes of emphasis, reiterate this thing. If I write something like there is no positive relationship between inflation and economic growth, this is one third, right?
Yeah.
It's one third because the emphasis is on what?
Direction.
Direction, that's positive. This suggests what? Direction. Then if I write there is no significant relationship between inflation and economic growth. What's this? This is also what?
This is magnitude.
Is also what? 1/3. But in this time is at what? Magnitude. But if I now have
1/3,
there is no positive and significant relationship between inflation and economic growth. This is what? Two-tailed.
Two-tailed.
Why?
It's positive and significant.
It's looking at positive and what? Significant. So that's what these are the things I've been trying to explain. But I now told us that this positive, that's this particular one direction now, can be addressed by theoretical words underpinning, while you allow your test to focus on what? Significance. So by that you are
underpinned.
Is underpinned theoretically, that's the direction, while this other one can be tested statistically. All right. So that's that. Now, when we test hypothesis also, there is what we call confidence level, and level of significance. Confidence level and level of what? Significance. You see, the desire of every researcher is to reject null hypothesis. The researcher's plan, the researcher's focus is to reject what? Null, right? His focus is to reject what? Null. If his focus is to reject null, he also would not want to reject null in an error. There's an error rejection, am I correct? There's error in your test if you reject what you should have accepted or accept what you should have rejected.
Yeah.
Now go and find out. In our next class, you tell me there are two types of error. We have type 1 error and we have type 2 error in hypothesis testing.
Type 1 and type 2.
Yes.
Find out type 1 and type 2.
Yes, what do they mean? Or can anybody answer the question? What's type 1 error? Tell me. What is type 1 error? Last.
I think one error is due to random error and the other one is assignable error. I think we have two errors, random errors and assignable errors.
Tell me the meaning of type 1 error and the meaning of type 2 error.
Hello?
Give me an, yes, go ahead.
Okay, so I think type 1 error is I think the rejection of a true hypothesis. I don't know if the rejection of a true null hypothesis is a type 1 error.
Keep talking.
Then I think the type 2 error is the non-rejection of a false null hypothesis.
Non-rejection of a false null hypothesis. Can you say that in a way that the class can understand it?
Okay, so Okay, so a false negative finding or conclusion on a hypothesis is a type 2. So if I'm finding, if I'm getting a false negative finding when I'm testing an hypothesis, then I'm having a type.
Can we put it this way? Rejecting what you should have accepted is what?
So rejecting what I should have accepted.
Is it a type 1 or a type 2?
Type 2. No, it's a type 1 hypothesis.
Okay, when you reject,
it's a type 1 error. What I should have accepted, which is supposed to be a true null.
Please take that home. Everybody, go and find out. In the next class, talk to me about error in hypothesis testing.
It's a type 1 error.
In fact, do it and send it to my mail.
What's your mail address?
Hello.
Sir. Hello, sir.
Give me a paragraph discussion on type 1 and type 2 error. Send it to my mail.
What's your mail address, sir?
ebere.kalu@unn.
So write it on the board.
Can you share it on your screen, please?
Okay.
It's not. It's okay.
Even the question matters.
The paragraph description.
Discussion.
Of the type 1. Of a type 1 and type 2 error.
Differentiate between type 1 and type 2 error.
Differentiate between type 1 and type 2 error in hypothesis testing. Okay.
Paragraph. A paragraph.
And your matrix number.
So you say a paragraph, ba?
Yes.
Timeline, sir.
Not less than a paragraph. Not less than a paragraph. I'd like to see it before the next class.
The paragraph is how many words?
It can be 1,000 words as far as it makes up.
Aisha, Haja, please ask Google.
Because a paragraph can be...
Haja, go and Google it.
It can be 1,000 words.
Stop calling 1,000. You want to write essay.
I have how many? It can be just 10 words that makes it.
Instead of you to say 10 words, I say 1,000. As if you are writing what I can down.
So it depends on you, however you want to write it, Haja.
Well, if you can very well answer the question in 10 lines, please send it that way.
10 lines. Okay.
Let me see how 10 lines can adequately answer that question.
Wow.
When you write plenty now, the doctor will not be able to go through it before the next class.
Doctor, we don't need to put examples or all of that. We just have to differentiate.
You can put example now.
Please use your discretion.
Please, okay. Doctor has a priority expectation, so put example, I beg. So that
you should not be counterintuitive, huh?
Yes, that's why you should put the example.
I hope you will meet my priority expectation.
Oh, okay.
All right.
We'll pray and fast to meet it.
That won't be necessary. That's a waste of prayer. Okay, so let's come back home. Like I said, in confidence level, And level of, I think I'll stop here for tonight. I'll explain this and then we'll stop. Now, the researcher wants to reject null hypothesis, but he doesn't want to do that in error. So he now sets a confidence limit. He says, I'm going to do this with this percentage of, confidence or assurance that I am doing the right thing. If you go through your statistics books, you find out that there is 90% confidence limit. You have 95%, and you have 99%. And very recently, we have 97.5%. 97. Very recent statistical test. They have confidence level of 95%. 97.5% rather. Now I want to do something. Now this is confidence level. And then this is level of significance. Now, if my confidence level is 90%, my level of significance is 10%. If my confidence level is 95%, my level of significance is 5%.
5%.
If my confidence level is 99%, my level of significance is what? 1%.
1%.
And then my confidence level is 97.5, my level of significance is 2.5%. Right? Now, let me explain what this means. It means if I am sure up to 90% that I am not rejecting null hypothesis in error, I will go ahead and do what? And reject it. So by that, it means my allowed error margin is what? 10%.
10%.
And remember, you don't need to make 100% to have an A. Am I correct?
Yes.
Fine. Now, if my confidence level is 95%, it means my allowed error margin is what? 5%.
5%.
If my confidence level is 99%, my allowed error margin is what? 1%. If my confidence level is 97.5%, my allowed error margin is what? 2.5%. Now, what this means is that I'm setting a benchmark, right? I am setting a what? A benchmark. For the purposes of testing my hypothesis or even rejecting my null hypothesis. Now, something happens when you carry out the test proper. When you carry out the test proper, you will now have your actual, this is the set. That's like the threshold. And then this becomes the act. Do the test. You will now have the what? The actual. But you have the threshold originally set. And then you have the actual. Now, when you have the actual, you compare the actual with the level of significance. If the actual is less than the level of significance, you can go ahead and reject null. What I'm saying now is important. Let me set it out very well. Now here will be the decision. Please give attention to this table. I may give a table like this and ask you to copy and complete it.
Wow.
Okay, now let's see. You see, you have percent, and you have a level of significance, which is 100 minus the confidence level. I hope you know. 100% minus your confidence level gives you your level of what? Significance.
Significance.
Then the actual, when you carry out your test, normally, if you're used to regression, you have there's what we call p-value. That's the probability value, right? How many of you have seen that before? Huh? Have you seen that before?
Yeah, I see it, but I didn't know it.
Okay, I'll talk about it shortly. Or just let it lie low for now. Let it lie low for now. I'll talk about it later. So what you have the probability value. Assuming your actual probability value is 0.09. Now 0.09 is less than what? 10%.
10%.
Okay.
Now if you have here 0.06, or let's say 0.06. 0.06 is greater than 5%, right?
Yeah.
If you have 0.000, that is less than 1%, right? And then if you have 0.0125, is also less than 2.5%, because this is actually 0.1. 0.1. This is 0.05. Beautiful. 0.05. And this is actually 0.01. 0.01. And then this is actually
0.025.
Okay. Now, if this is true, what it implies is that you have your level of significance and you have the actual probability value. Then, in our decision, remember what you set out to achieve. You said to yourself, if my actual is less than the threshold, I will comfortably reject null hypothesis. But when my actual probability value is greater than the threshold, I'll be afraid to reject, because I am thinking if I reject, I will probably be making a mistake. I will be rejecting in error. So in the light of that, I may decide not to reject. So the decision here is that if p-value is less than what? Than sig level. This is what this means. This means that the p-value, which is 0.09, is less than what? The level of significance. So what do? We will reject null hypothesis. Reject null. That's what this means. Then in the second instance, the p-value is 0.06, right? While the level of significance is 0.05. So p-value is greater. P-value is what? Greater than significance level. What do? We refuse. You can't say you accept. No. You don't accept null. It is bad research language to say you accept null. Accepting null means you're saying you're accepting nothing. Rather, we say we refuse.
We reject null.
Did you understand that?
We refuse to?
Refuse to reject null. It means the same thing actually. when you refuse to reject null, it also almost means that you are accepting what? Null. But you don't
accepting null.
But you don't use the word accept null. Because your objective is to what? To reject null. So in the light of that, what you say is that you refuse to reject what? Null.
No.
Are you getting that now?
Yeah.
In case okay, so in case number 3, what would that be? Tell me.
We reject null.
No.
So why are we going to reject null?
Probability
Because
value
it's
is
less.
So we say p value is what? Less than significant
value.
level. So what do we do?
Reject null.
Reject null. Equal to reject null.
The last one too is the same thing.
No, the last one is refuse to reject null.
Why?
Aja is pulling weight.
I'm feeling sleepy.
Eh?
That's why I'm not seeing.
If you are feeling sleepy and you're answering the question correctly, go ahead and feel sleepy even more. Okay, so in the last one, I have 97.5%. So 2.5 is 0.025, right?
Greater than 0.1.
Is greater than 0 points.
So we refuse to reject null.
Refuse to reject null.
No, we reject null.
We reject null.
0.0125 is 1.25%. It's less than this.
Okay, that's true.
Yes.
So
reject null.
P value is less than significant level. What do we do?
Reject null.
Reject null. Reject null. Reject null. Let this thing I have shown you now be at your fingertips. This table now is a very important hypothesis testing. And it is called decision rule. It's called what? Decision rule.
Prof, is there a way of getting the table? All of it.
I don't understand. You have the statistical table now. The statistical table is there.
Yeah, I mean, this null table you just built, there is a way of capturing all of them at once. Yeah.
I don't understand your question.
Screenshots now.
I want to screenshot, but it's coming half-half.
Okay. I should
just reduce the font so that it can be smaller and contained. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, let me do it better. Does that serve your purpose?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, but okay, yes.
No.
It's fine now, right?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so
yeah, better.
And then the question now becomes, somebody may ask me, how do we choose our confidence level? How do we choose our level of significance? But generally speaking, it is the preserve of the researcher to determine or choose his what confidence level. You understand that? So when you are doing your work, you say, before you even set out, say, I am going to test my hypothesis at 90% confidence level. That is at 10% level of significance. But then, the standard practice majorly is what? 5%. I get what I'm saying. This is standard practice. This is standard what? Practice.
That's
5%.
95%.
Yes, 5% is what most researchers use. Now, because 90% is a bit loose, then 1% and 2.5% are tighter. Then the standard most times, most works you will see would go with 0.05 level of what? Significance. Okay. I think I've done enough to deserve 1 day pay. I have justified what the government is paying me, at least
sir.
for 1 night.
Yes, sir. You've done well compared to the others that we are not seeing at all.
Haji, I don't compare with others. I compare with my past.
With yourself.
Just tell me I did well today, better than I did yesterday.
Hello, sir.
Yes, sir. At least we feel like we are in the classroom now with this board showing us everything.
Please, we should clap for the person that brought the idea. I never knew of it. So I don't know who did. Who did? Please, if you were the one, let's recognize you. 2 full points for you.
On behalf of the person who did, thank you, everybody.
The person is the person who wants.
Who is the person who did?
Okay, on behalf of the person who did it.
The person should have a name. The person should have a name.
The person's name.
Hello, sir. Hello,
It is my brother.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Yeah. So
extra 5 marks, 5 points for when he do his test.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Yeah. So I am together with Ibukun.
Okay. Okay, you were the one, right?
Yes, sir.
Name, please.
Name, please.
Name and number.
Name, please.
So that you get extra 5 marks. I want to talk. I have to go and press them.
Ajia, calm down. Please, name. All right, that means that
he's shy, so he doesn't want to disclose his name.
That means he's from support.
Yes, sir. I'm from support, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, sir.
That's okay with us. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I think it's been a nice class, right?
Yes.
So I have a question.
Please go ahead and ask the question.
Okay, my question is, like, can there be, if you watch this table closely, you will see that though our threshold is supposed to be 10%, which is 0.1, we have something like 0.09, which is very, very close. So can there be something like an allowance, like how can I put it? Like,
okay, like if you want to make trouser, you allow small.
Yes, it will like plus or minus 2 or plus or minus 5.
No, there's not. You see, you've already set the allowance for yourself. The allowance it has to be less than the threshold. You have set a threshold. And then you are saying, I have to operate below this threshold. If I am less than that, I'm okay. And you remember what we are looking at? You are looking at a confidence level, the level at which you can take decision to reject null without error. You want to avoid error in reject. The researcher, as much as you want to reject null hypothesis, you have to do it in an error-free manner. So you now say, okay, if I'm here, I know I will be error-free. So you now set the threshold. So anything below the threshold gives you that error-free margin. Anything above it means there's a problem. You are not within the error-free margin. That's exactly what we are saying. So there are two comparative figures here. That's your actual and your set level of significance.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Any other question? Any other question? Question. Henry. Any question? Henry or the Nakachuku? You're fine, right?
No, it's
David Ugu is fine, right? Any question?
I'm fine, sir.
Thank you. Irene
Thank you,
is
sir.
fine. Irene is fine, right?
Yes, I'm fine, sir.
Okay.
I'm here.
Hajia is fine, right?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Hajia will always be fine. Samson is fine, right?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Benjamin is fine.
I'm awesome.
Caleb is fine. That sounds like Rest Embassy English.
I'm very fine, sir.
Samson, Joshua, Dr. Joshua is fine.
Yes, I'm fine.
You're a medical doctor, right?
Yes.
Wow.
Doctor, the corona case is increasing in Nigeria.
My brother, follow
what
what you see on the NCDC Twitter page and the Federal Ministry of Health Nigeria. Don't listen to things that people will just cook up. So, my brother, the fear and panic from it is even worse than the anticipation that it will spread.
Yes. I think that's instructive. That means we don't feed from anything. Let's feed from the right source. Okay. Thank you. Kingsley, you're fine. Choma is fine.
Yes, I'm fine.
Okay. Mary is fine.
I'm fine, sir.
All right. Thank you so much. Let me wish you a pleasant night rest. I think within the week, we are going to have those other two courses, business statistics and corporate finance.
All right,
Thank you,
sir.
sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir. Have a
Don't
good
forget
night.
to send in your assignment. Have a great night.
Okay, sir.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Very much.
Thank
Good
you.
night, sir.
Night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.